Julian Assange cannot be extradited to U.S., British judge rules.
Here's a summary of the article.
Julian Assange will make a fresh bid to be released from prison on Wednesday after a British judge ruled that he cannot be extradited to the U.S. to face charges of espionage and of hacking government computers. Turning to evidence by medical experts about Assange's precarious mental health, she said, "The overall impression is of a depressed and sometimes despairing man, who is genuinely fearful about his future. I find that the mental condition of Mr. Assange is such that it would be oppressive to extradite him to the United States of America," she concluded. Prosecutors say Assange helped the U.S. defense analyst Chelsea Manning breach the U.S. Espionage Act, was complicit in hacking by others and published classified information that endangered informants. Assange denies plotting with Manning to crack an encrypted password on U.S. computers and says there is no evidence anyone's safety was compromised. In her ruling, which triggered elation among Assange's supporters that he was not being extradited, but dismay that it was solely based on health grounds, the judge said she had no reason to doubt that the usual constitutional and procedural protections would be applied to a trial he might face in the U.S. Sending Assange across the Atlantic would not breach a bar on extradition for political offenses, she said, and she had no reason to doubt that the usual constitutional and procedural protections would be applied to a trial he might face in the U.S. She sided with the argument of lawyers for U.S. authorities who had denied Assange was being prosecuted merely for publishing diplomatic cables and military files. In her ruling, the judge accepted that Assange was likely to be held in conditions of isolation in a so-called supermax prison and that he would find a way to take his own life with the single-minded determination of the autism spectrum disorder he had been diagnosed with. Nick Vamos, a partner at Peters & Peters Solicitors and a former head of extradition at the Crown Prosecution Service, told The Guardian that the ruling did not break new ground and largely applied established principles which had thwarted a U.S. attempt to secure the extradition of Lori Love, a British student accused of breaking into U.S. government websites.
This post received a score of 63,000, with an upvote ratio of 90%. Here are the top comments in response to this article.
The extradition request was rejected by the judge because of inadequate conditions regarding mental health and suicide prevention in U.S. maximum security prisons. The decision was not based on the case itself.
Greater than District Judge Vanessa Baratzer rules that while U.S. prosecutors met the tests for Mr. Assange to be extradited for trial, the U.S. is incapable of preventing him from attempting to take his own life, and therefore extradition would be oppressive.
If this holds up during the appeals process, I wonder whether this argument is going to be used by many other people trying to prevent their extradition to the U.S.
It is not the first case where this happens. In Norway, the courts ruled that the conditions a prisoner would be subject to were in violation of his human rights. Therefore he couldn't be extradited. This was a long time ago though, so the final outcome may have been different. Even in a U.S. court, a judge ruled a man with dwarfism could not be sent to prison because he would definitely be raped and murdered. We would rather a few criminals go free than make our prisons safe from cruel and unusual punishment.
Even on Reddit, if you try arguing that prison rape violence is bad, you'll immediately attract people saying that some prisoners deserve it. The fact that they haven't been sentenced to that or that apparently US is meant to be a country ruled by law is irrelevant to them. To them it's like, well, this guy is a murderer, of course he deserves being raped in prison.
I've said it before, I'll say it again. It's prison. It is meant to be a place for punitive reflection and seclusion from a civilized society. It is not the fucking Thunderdome, and it is not up to those prisoners to exact any other kind of justice. To any Redditor out there who thinks it's okay for prisoners to be raped, beaten, murdered, whatever their crime while in prison, you're a fool and as much a part of the problem as the justice system is.
Even if you don't support this philosophically, practically putting someone in prison for a short term and ensuring they come out worse is just objectively bad for you and society.
I've met many men that have done 5 to 25 years in prisons. Sometimes there are people who go in doing 10 to 15 but end up doing life because they have to stab or assault someone so that they themselves don't get stabbed or assaulted. Prisons don't rehabilitate, on the contrary they completely debilitate anyone's chances for a normal life. Not go back over and over and over until prison is all you know.
This video was automatically created by Reddit to speech. The article and comments in this video were selected from Reddit according to their upvotes, and any paraphrasing was performed by smmry.com, without any human intervention.